She was born into a world of wealth in the year 1893. Her name was Huang Huilan, the daughter of Huang Zhonghan, the richest man in Jawa, Indonesia, a man people called the King of Tang. Her mother, Ming was once the most beautiful woman in China. At just 15, she married this wealthy tycoon and bore him 2 daughters. But beauty and youth could not stop a man's hunger for more. Huang Zhonghan took 18 concubines and fathered 42 children. He even married an entire family, a widow named Jiang, her little daughter, and Jiang's own younger sister. When that young sister grew up, he made her his concubine too. Later, even the widow's daughter joined his harem. Ming could no longer stand the corruption. She took her 2 daughters, left that gilded cage behind, and fled to Europe, leaving her husband and her fortune. But little Hui-lan, she loved her father deeply. She was his favorite. As a child, she followed him everywhere, clinging to his side. Her father used to pat her head and say, "You brought me good luck, my girl. The year you were born, I made my first million." And so, he spoiled her. Whatever she wanted, silk dresses, pearls, horses, tutors, it was hers. Her mother, however, had a different plan. She had no son, so she poured all her hopes into her daughters. She wanted them to become famous women, to marry well, to shine in high society. Though Hui-lan never attended school, teachers came to her every day to teach her foreign languages, music, calligraphy, dance, even fencing and horseback riding. But for all the luxury, she lived in deep loneliness. The servants' children were told not to play with her. So even as she grew into a woman of poise and grace, her heart remained cold, distant, untouched. She once said, "I've been rejected so many times that even now, it's hard for me to reach out with love. I grew up as lonely as my father, craving warmth, yet unable to seek it." Years later, as a young woman, Huang Huilan became a star in every ballroom across Europe. Every night, she danced until dawn, her laughter echoing through the halls. She drove cars, gambled recklessly, lived lavishly, and her father paid for it all. And her mother watched, waiting for the right suitor to appear. That chance came in 1920, when a diplomat named Gu Weijun, known in the West as V.K. Wellington Koo, saw her photograph. He was captivated and determined to make her his wife. Born in Shanghai in 1888, Gu was one of China's brightest diplomats, a man of ambition, intellect, and charm. When he met Hui-lan, she felt nothing special. He didn't dance. He didn't ride horses. To her, he was simply dull. But Gu Weijun didn't give up. He began to show her a new kind of world, a world of politics, diplomacy, and power. He took her to the Beijing Han Palace, to the royal halls of Europe, to the opera, where they sat in the treasury box, seats reserved only for the elite of nations. Hui-lan was dazzled. "No matter how much money my father had," she later said, "he could never buy me that seat." Gu sent her flowers every day, visited her several times daily, even appeared at her beauty salon uninvited, always with the same calm determination. He didn't tell her he loved her. Instead, one evening, he simply said, "My wife passed away. I need a new one. Will you be mine?" Hui-lan was stunned. She said she needed time to think. Her mother didn't hesitate. Ming wanted this marriage, a diplomat for a son-in-law, a new step into the world of power. Her father, however, objected. He sent word from Singapore, "You don't need to marry. Come back home and live with me." He even sent detectives to investigate Gu's background, and what he found enraged him. Gu Weijun had been married twice before. His first wife had become a nun after their divorce. His second had died, leaving 2 children behind. But Mingniang didn't care. Gu had explained it away as old Chinese customs, marrying the daughter of a family doctor as a token of gratitude, later parting ways peacefully. He told them his second wife had died of illness, leaving him lonely and in need of a companion. Despite the warnings, Mingniang pressed her daughter to accept. When Hui-lan hesitated, her mother grew sharp. "You must agree to this marriage. You live alone because of me, but I have diabetes. I could die any time. When that happens, who will take care of you? Your sister? Your father? No one will." Under pressure from her family, and with her mother's health failing, Huang Huilan finally said yes. Later, she would write, "My mother arranged our meeting in Paris. I married him because she wished it. He married me because he saw a beautiful face." In 1920, 27-year-old Huang Huilan married 32-year-old Gu Weijun, becoming his third wife. Their wedding in 1920 was the talk of high society. It was held in Shanghai, the grandest event of that season. The bride wore a diamond tiara, her gown imported from Paris. The guests, ambassadors, aristocrats, ministers, all whispered about her beauty. But beneath the glamour, something was missing. Gu Weijun, ever the diplomat, was already busy with his career. To him, marriage was a duty, part of the image a successful man should present to the world. For Hui-lan, life became a performance. She played the role of a perfect diplomat's wife, elegant, fluent in English, French, and Mandarin, a master of etiquette. At every banquet, she stood beside him like a jewel, smiling when needed, silent when expected. When Gu served as China's representative at the League of Nations in Geneva, Hui-lan followed him across Europe. She hosted dinners for foreign envoys, translated speeches, and charmed journalists. The Western press adored her. They called her China's First Lady of Diplomacy. She wore qipaos embroidered with phoenixes, pearls that shimmered under chandeliers, and a calm, mysterious smile that captivated every room she entered. But when the lights dimmed and the guests left, she often sat alone by the window, watching the snow fall outside. Gu Weijun rarely spoke to her at home. He spent his nights buried in papers, reports, and telegrams. When he wasn't working, he entertained foreign dignitaries or played chess with colleagues. Their conversations grew shorter. Their laughter disappeared. Once, she asked softly, "Weijun, are you happy with me?" He looked up briefly from his documents and replied, "Happiness? There's no such thing in politics." She never asked again. Still, she stayed loyal, faithfully walking beside him through decades of postings, London, Geneva, New York, Paris. But loneliness has a way of hollowing the heart. By the late 1930s, Gu Weijun's ambitions reached their peak. He served as China's ambassador to France, and later to the United States. While the world admired his brilliance, rumors began to swirl. Rumors of a new woman in his life, much younger, much more gentle. Hui-lan heard the whispers at dinner parties. Sometimes she caught him exchanging secret letters, but she said nothing. "A wife must learn to keep silence," she wrote later. "In our world, silence is the price of dignity." When the Second World War erupted, she fled with him to the U.S. They lived in New York, where Koo served as China's ambassador once again. But even across the ocean, the distance between them only grew. One winter evening, after a diplomatic reception, Hui-lan stood before the mirror. Her hair was perfectly curled, her jewels sparkled, but in her reflection, she saw only exhaustion. She whispered to herself, "I have everything a woman could want, yet nothing that makes life warm." As years passed, Koo Wei-jun became increasingly distant, then cold, and finally, indifferent. In 1956, after 36 years of marriage, they quietly separated. No scandal, no public announcement, just silence. Koo went on to live with another woman, Juliana Young, a writer 30 years younger than him. They would remain together until his death. For Hui-lan, it was the end of a long illusion. She once said to a friend, "I was married to China's most famous diplomat, but I was never married to love." After the separation, Huang Huilan stayed in New York, far from the glamour and chaos of her past. She had no children, no family close by, only her memories, her pride, and the echo of a name once known around the world. She lived in a small apartment on Park Avenue, surrounded by antiques, faded photographs, and the faint scent of old perfume. Each morning, she brewed tea the Chinese way, though she hadn't spoken Mandarin in years. Her voice, when she did speak, carried the rhythm of old European salons, elegant, deliberate, slightly detached. Time had softened her beauty, but not her spirit. She still dressed impeccably, still walked with a straight back, her eyes sharp with intelligence. When young reporters visited, fascinated by the once famous Madame Wellington Koo, she greeted them with grace and wit. "Do you miss your husband?" one asked. She smiled faintly. "Which one?" she said. "The man or the myth?" Then she looked out the window at the New York skyline and added quietly, "He belonged to history. I belonged to silence." In her later years, she rarely mentioned Koo Wei-jun again, but she often spoke of her mother, the woman who pushed her toward power and away from happiness. "My mother wanted me to shine," she once said. "She forgot that light can burn." Hui-lan spent her evenings reading, listening to opera, or writing letters she never sent. Sometimes she would hum softly, an old tune from her youth in Europe, the one her father loved. As decades passed, her friends faded away one by one. The glamorous parties, the embassies, the banquets, all gone, like smoke after a storm. By the 1980s, she was over 90, yet still lived alone. Reporters from China tried to visit, hoping to record her memories. She refused most of them. "They wouldn't understand," she said. "I left China as a princess, and I'll die as a stranger." In 1992, at the age of 103, Huang Huilan passed away quietly in New York. No husband, no children, no family beside her. Her last words, whispered to a nurse, were in English, the language she had used most of her life. "Tell them, I lived as I was taught, with dignity." Her ashes were not returned to China. They remained in New York, the city that watched her grow old in silence. Today, her story survives not in love letters or monuments, but in whispers. The tale of a woman born into wealth, trained for brilliance, and destined for solitude. She once said, long before her final days, "Some women are born to be loved. Others are born to be remembered." and she was right. Huang Huilan, the forgotten First Lady of China's diplomacy, was both.